Hey, what's up, guys? It's WiseGuyVito here, and today having our tier list video for you guys, and this one will be on secondary weapons against the Terminid faction. This will be after or post the Borderline of Justice war bond. That's the only real way that I can put a name to the patch, because otherwise I'll be saying just a whole string of numbers, and I'd rather not do that because it's kind of confusing. So basically, this tier list will be post the Borderline Justice war bond and the patch that came along with it about 2 days before the war bond was released, and I'll kind of give you my thoughts on what secondary weapons are really good against the Terminid faction and which ones are not so much. So as always, like, share, and subscribe. Let's get straight into the tier list. So before we start, let's go over the tiers real quick. S tier is the meta picks. These are the picks that you should be running at level 10 difficulty. End of story. In my opinion, if you want to run at the best efficiency possible, these are the ones that are the meta picks, in my opinion. Above average is, you can still run these at level 10. They do have an above average performance. They do offer some level of goodness about them, but there might be one glaring issue with them, and we'll kind of go over what those issues are. B tier is average. It's neither good nor bad, just kind of meh tier. But for the most part, you can still run these at level 10. Just know that there might be one particular niche that's with these weapons. That doesn't make them necessarily good or bad, but it's just, they don't have that good all-aroundness as the A or S tier categories. C tier is below average. We'd like to see some buffs to these weapons, and we'll kind of go over what those buffs would be. And then D tier is the Dookie tier. This is the bad tier. This is the tier that you probably should not be running these weapons, in my opinion, at level 10 difficulty, and we'll kind of go over what those weapons are. So, without further ado, let's get straight into the tier list. So, the Ultimatum, which is the secondary grenade launcher, you fire it once, has a big boom to it, and can kill chargers, bile titans, impalers. It can destroy Terminid structures. I think everyone knows where this one is definitely going to go, which is in the S tier category. It just opens so much build variety at level 10 that it's kind of a no-brainer to pick at times. And if you want that if you kind of want to open up your support slot for something that's not something heavy armor pen, so like a stalwart or like a machine gun, something that you would normally not bring on a level 10, this kind of opens the way for that because it can handle with those heavy armor targets. The only thing I would say is that Hellpot optimization doesn't work on this anymore because they did nerf it. That was a change that they did make about a month and a half ago. I do think they need to revert that change back because I don't find that to be particularly overpowered. What made it very, very strong was the Siege Ready perk that you get from the Urban Legends War Bond, kind of like that armor where you get more shots with it and more ammo with it. That with the Hellpot optimization gave you 3 shots of it. With the Siege, if you didn't bring Siege Ready, you would have 2 shots with it. And in my opinion, I think that you need to spawn in with 2 shots with this gun. But right now, you only spawn in with 1 shot. But it's still very good. Like I said before, it handles all the heavily armored targets, all the bigger enemies in the game, and also handles Terminid structures. That's why I'm putting it into the S tier category. The grenade pistol, definitely an S tier pick in my opinion. Just great utility. It's probably the best utility weapon in the game, just overall, because it handles, it has some crowd control capability to it. It's not, crazy or anything. But what this does very well at is that you can use this for bug holes. And you can kind of free up some grenade slots. You can kind of run something that, a grenade that you don't necessarily have to be throwing into bug holes because you can just use the grenade pistol. And that's why, in my opinion, it's a really good utility pick for the Terminids at level 10. The Bushwacker, I'm not going to lie, it is pretty good, It's really good against commanders and nursing spewers and bile spewers, hive guardians, anything that's more like an elite style enemy. What kind of falls flat on is crowd control. You have the capability of firing because it's a 3-barreled shotgun. You can fire 1 barrel at a time, so 3 pulls of a trigger, 1, 2, 3. or you can fire all 3 shots at once, and you can change the fire rate to fire all 3 shots at once. Has a decent reload time to it. It's not nothing too crazy or too bad. It's basically just like a pocket punisher. That's what it is. If you want basically like just a shotgun in your pocket, then you would definitely be using the Bushwacker. Just overall, just a fine weapon. So that's why I'm putting it into the A tier category. The Crisper's good as well. I don't think that it's S tier level. I mainly think that it's just good for crowd control. You don't want to necessarily point at a target. You can if you want to, in which case I think it does good at single target damage. So against like bile spewers and commanders and hive guards and stuff like that. Where this gun shines, in my opinion, the secondary is kind of spray the ground in front of you and dip, right? It's more of like an escape option. And you can use this while running as well. So whenever your character is kind of just not sprinting away, but just kind of just like jogging away, you can just turn this to your rear and then paint the ground in front of you, behind you actually. And, like you have something now that whenever the enemies walk across it, they will now start taking ticks of damage. And this thing actually does pretty good damage as far as damage over time. So that's why I'll be putting it into the A tier category. The Peacekeeper. I don't think this weapon is really good right now. It is the starter pistol. It's not really supposed to be that great, in my opinion. At one point, I did have this at the B tier category, but as time goes on, and you'll see why here in a few, there are just better options in this category that makes this thing fall off severely hard to where I don't even think this thing has a niche anymore because it's just a starter pistol. Maybe with an attachment system, this weapon will climb the tiers up a little bit because Arrowhead is working on an attachment system, and I think the more boring weapons in the game, so like assault rifles and stuff like that, and weapons like the Peacekeeper, once that attachment system does drop, I do think that we will see this weapon climb the tiers again. But for the time being, I'm going to definitely put it in the Dookie tier. I don't think that there's anything that you could rework to this weapon. You can give this weapon more buffs, sure, for damage and reload speed. I don't think it needs it. But what would help it would be an attachment system. The Hachet, do think this is like a C tier style of secondary. It doesn't stun like the Stun Baton and the Stun Lance, but what it does do is that it's supposed to do a lot of damage to compensate for not stunning. The problem is that I don't think it does enough damage, and I love this thing too. I have taken out plenty of enemies with this as kind of just like a haha funny meme type of build, but for the most part, if you're going to seriously run this at level 10 difficulties, don't. It needs more buffs to it. Namely, it just needs way more damage to it. So Airhead, if you're listening out there, you definitely need to make sure this weapon does way more damage than what it's currently doing. The Dagger, I do think this is pretty much a good average pistol. It's really good at what it does, which is cleanup. I don't think this is going to be a weapon that you handle commanders with, nursing spewers, bile spewers, hive guardians, any type of elite style enemies. What this weapon does really good at is cleaning up the mess that you started. So any type of little itty bitty bugs, every now and then, like you may have 2 or 3 hunters that are kind of, not right up on you, but kind of closing in the distance after you just killed a mob of enemies. Because it has a decent amount of damage to it with limited ammo, it's just a good cleanup gun. And that's really all that's good for. And that's a solid pick if you want to pick it. But in my opinion, though, there are definitely some weapons up here that give you way more, I guess, breathing room or just like a better performance than this Dagger will. But if you want to bring it, that's totally understandable. It has limited ammo and it's good for cleanup, like I said before. So that's why I'm putting it into the B tier category. Whenever it comes down to the Stun Baton, for me personally, I think this is B tier. It does fine. It stuns, which is really good. But in my opinion, though, the Stun Lance is better. Both these weapons, both these melee weapons, are good for just general cleanup, but what the Stunlets does better than the Stun Baton, in my opinion, is it actually kills heavily armored targets, namely Chargers. It does really well against Chargers. You can aim for the front legs of Chargers or the butts of Chargers, and this weapon actually does pretty good. In my opinion, the Stun Lance is on the low side of A, in my opinion. But, you know, it's definitely not a B tier weapon. You know, it is definitely leagues above B, but it's definitely on the lower side of A, in my opinion, because there's definitely better weapons in A that I would be using over the Stun Lance. But I digress. You can definitely build into this as well. If you want to take peak physique and do even more damage with it, you can definitely build into that and do perfectly fine at level 10 difficulties. But again, it requires more build crafting to it. And of course, you don't have any range with this because you'll be in melee range. So it's not a gun, so just keep that in mind. So you might want to bring a ballistic shield with this as well. Both of these, all these melee weapons, you definitely want to bring a ballistic shield. So that's why I'm putting it in the A tier category. The Verdict, I do think the Verdict is the better Peacekeeper, effectively. Medium armor pen does 185 or 180 damage, just somewhere around there. It's just a good, solid, all-around pistol. It's what the Peacekeeper should be. So if you're looking for a really good pistol, you know, definitely look into the Polar Patriots. You get good primaries, and you get a very solid secondary as well. So that's why I'm putting it into the S tier category. The Redeemer. The Redeemer is not bad. I do think it's A in the A tier category. It's kind of fallen off a bit. I remember when the Redeemer was the best pistol in the entire game. But that's when all the other pistols kind of sucked except for this. What it does really good at is short bursts of just DPS, which is really good. So if you have, you know, 4 or 5 hunters coming at you, you can kind of clean them up really quickly. You can kind of relieve the pressure from that. Other than that, that's where it kind of stops at. It's just really good for cleanups and for short bursts of damage whenever things get kind of hairy. It's a really good type of get off me tool. So that's why I'm putting it into the A tier category. The Talon, which is the new las hand cannon, big iron, Schofield-like pistol, revolver. I do think this is S tier in my opinion. I do think that the Senator is better, but as far as the Talon goes, the Talon, where the Talon excels at is that it has 200 damage, it's medium armor pen, and it effectively has unlimited ammo. That's where it does really good at, and it has 0 recoil. This thing has no recoil at all. Even without the Gunslinger perk, this thing has no recoil. It can 2-tap Hive Guardians in the face. People are saying they can 3-tap Hive Guardians. It technically, so if you want to stop a Hive Guardian from moving because you just kill it outright, it takes 3 taps. If you just want to kill one where you're putting into a bleed state and it just falls over after you shoot it twice, then it's a 2-tap. I believe it 2 or 3 taps. Commanders in the head as well. I would not be spam firing with this weapon, but even if you do spam fire, you get, 8 shots relatively, like around 8 shots with each clip if you're just spam firing with it. That's a lot, and each one's doing 200 damage. They can one-shot, from my experience anyways, it can one-shot hunters, which is really nice. It just excels as a cleanup tool and as a DPS weapon. And it's really good against like elite enemies. So, in my opinion, it's kind of like a no-brainer. Mini armor pen, 200 damage, unlimited ammo. You can shoot 8 rounds. Has a fast reload, 0 recoil. It's just a good all-arounder pistol. I can definitely see the argument of this gun actually being better than the Verdict. But if you want something that has more shots to it, then you would definitely bring the Verdict over the Talon. But the Talon does more damage, has 0 recoil. I won't repeat myself, but this is a very, very, very good revolver that just came out. So definitely take a look at it. Definitely use it in your level 10 runs against the Terminid faction. The Senator, like I said before, I do think this is the better Talon, in my opinion. But I do think the Talon has some things that the Senator doesn't, but I do think that the Senator is better. Senator has AP4. That automatically makes it just a better weapon overall. So it does have heavy armor pin. It does have a speed reloader, so it has a really good, speed time or reload time to it. Does really good damage. Does 200 damage. It's just an overall just a very nice pistol to have. It's just really good. It can one-shot hunters. Does well against elite style enemies. It's just a nice hand cannon. Where it kind of falls off is that it does, I won't say fall off, but like the negatives to it is that the recoil is much more than the Talon, and where the Talon fires off 8 shots, you get 6 shots with the Senator. So it's kind of like you want AP4 with less rounds, but you get like a more hardier punch with a faster reload, or do you want, something that you have to kind of watch how you make your shots, right? You don't want to overheat the weapon. It's kind of like a pick or choose type of thing, right? I think as time goes on, the Talon might be better than the Senator, but for the time being, how the current meta is, I do think that the Senator is probably better than the Talon. But you guys let me know what you think about the Talon versus the Senator. I would very much like to hear y'all's opinions in the comment section. The Stim Pistol. Okay, so this is a B tier weapon, in my opinion, because the niche of this weapon is that you can heal your teammates. You basically shoot your teammates full of whatever methamphetamine, fentanyl, heroin, needles that you're given to your teammates to heal them, and it does that niche very well. I don't think, if you want to build into it, you can. You definitely want to bring the experimental stim booster with this one as well, because at that point you're giving your teammates not only a great boost in health, but a great boost in speed as well, and stamina regeneration. Just overall, this is just a solid pistol if you're trying to be the medic of your team. So, and that's why I'm putting it into the B tier category, because I think that does have that particular niche to it, and that niche does pretty well. So this is my tier list for secondaries against the Terminid faction. You guys let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Would greatly like to hear your guys' opinions on these secondary weapons. Thank you so much for the support that you guys have given me thus far. As always, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.